Welcome back to our reflections on the Gospel of next Sunday, and we're reflecting on the 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. So here we are. Now when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered round him, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees, and all the Jews, do not eat unless they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders. And they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And there are also many other traditions that they observe, the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and the scribes asked Jesus, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" He said to them, "Isaiah prophesied rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honours me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition.'" Then he called the crowd again and said to them, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, and folly. All of these evils come from within, and they defile a person." Now, the first thing I'd like to say about this gospel is that it doesn't record the whole incident. It is one chapter, verses 1 to 8, then 14 and 15, and then 21 to 23. And in a sense, that takes away something of the dynamic that's going on. But however, the fundamental thing is here that you've got the group coming from Jerusalem. That always means they're the baddies if they come from Jerusalem. And they observe what Jesus' disciples are doing. And the contrast is between the tradition of the elders, in other words, the things that have been worked out by the elders, and the commandments of God. And Jesus, in quoting Isaiah, is sort of saying, well, they do all these things, but they're not good within, as it were, and that's where it matters. So it's a question of, what makes a person good or bad, clean or unclean. And what we've got here is Jesus making the point that they've substituted human things for the divine things. Now, he gives an example there that is not recorded about honour thy father and mother, and shows how they worked around that to get away from those sort of responsibilities. So that's the point that's being made. And so Jesus then calls the crowd and says that, "Listen to me, all you understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile." Now, it looks as if the next verse goes on as there, but it doesn't, because what happens then, that the disciples go aside, and the last bit is with the disciples, and Jesus says to them, "Do you not understand?" In other words, they hadn't understood the issue either. And then he explains it. "For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder," and a whole list of things like that. So it's a contrast between the without and the within, the exterior and the interior. And he's making the point that it's the interior that is the more important thing. So I think it's really an important moral lesson. And I often see it being quoted in homilies and things about people who live all the externals of the faith but don't live it internally. And I'd have to say that living of it sort of externally is really an immature part of the journey to God. But it's probably a necessary part. I think it's only a bad thing when people got stuck there. And I think what he's saying about the Pharisees is that they're stuck there, that this is the way, and they haven't matured to come to a deeper understanding. So that was the sort of thing that I got out of it.
What struck me, I think, was the interior, but that question of the heart, even in the Beatitudes when they talk about purity of heart, which really, for me, it's not about a young person or an old person, that it's that heart that has the insight into humanity, that there's something beautiful about that heart, who can appreciate that purity of heart, which I think is what he's suggesting here, that it all happens in the heart. And it's, to me, when you meet people who do have that purity, it's quite disarming, actually.
Yes.
You know, they see through.
Yes. And it's another way of describing that emptiness that John of the Cross talks about. In other words, there's nothing in their heart that's going to conflict with the goodness that they're doing. And Cassian, my friend, he makes that the goal of this life, purity of heart. In other words, to be able to have the freedom to act as you've suggested.
Yeah.
I was, I'm probably one of those ones that you were talking about, David. I was reading something that they used the example of you're walking down the street and you see a house on either side, and one is just beautiful, and there's mum and dad and 2 kids, but inside it's like 4 individuals living separate lives. The servants are there doing all the work. Everything is prim and proper. And over the other side, there's things everywhere outside. But inside, it's a group of people, a family who have come together, and how easily we make judgments on the externals that we see. We don't see what's going on inside. And you know, the thing, I suppose, as a minister in the church, it's a challenge to you know, not to be rash judging. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it just sat with me when I read that.
There's a Russian saying that says that another person's heart is darkness.
This darkness.
We really don't know
Interesting.
other
Don't know
people.
what
No, even people that are close, and there's still dimensions that they don't know about the other person. However, we invite you now to look at the text and just see what the Lord might be telling you in the text. Remember, the process, what begins in the text, is going to end in your life, but at this stage, all we're looking at is what do you think the Lord is speaking to you about in this text. Welcome back. We invite you now to listen to another reading of the text.
Now when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around him, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders. And they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And there are also many other traditions that they observe, the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" He said to them, "Isaiah prophesies rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honours me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandments of God and hold on to human tradition.'" Then he called the crowd again and said to them, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceitfulness, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, folly. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person.
I thought that I might just look at my life and at some of the things that I'm doing and just try to assess the intention for why I do them. Because I think you can get drawn into things and you do them, but you do need to look at what's in the heart. You can be doing it because of external factors. So I thought I might just try to look at my motives in doing some of the things that I do.
I'll say for me, I'm very good at working out what's going on in other people's hearts. I'm really good at taking their inventory of what they're doing wrong. So for me, it's perhaps make it a particular focus to let go and concentrate on me, rather than spend a minute trying to work out what's going on in someone else's.
I guess I'm a little bit like that too, because I think, what am I like in church on Sunday, for instance, and what I say there, and then when I walk out of the church, who am I? Am I one and the same person, or do I become two different people? So I just want to kind of reflect on that.
Some people put their evils aside as they come in and then pick them up on the way out.
On the way out.
We ask you to be more serious. We'd like you to have a look at the text again and try to draw out something practical that you can incorporate in your life so that the message of Scriptures becomes alive as you live it in your situation. Let us now spend a moment in prayer, asking the Lord for the grace and the strength that we need to put into practice what we have chosen to do. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you giving time to reflect with us on the Scriptures. We believe it's very important that we do that. And unfortunately, I think not a lot of people are engaging with the Scriptures, and not a lot of our Catholic people, even though it was a very important message of the Vatican Council that we encourage our people to do that. So we conclude now by reading the prayer from the 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time.
God of might, giver of every good gift, put into our hearts the love of your name, so that by deepening our sense of reverence, you may nurture in us what is good, and by your watchful care, keep safe what you have nurtured through Christ our Lord.